What is the problem?
Okay. Good afternoon from the Lawyers Hub. Hope that you're keeping well. And we're excited today to be hosting an event together with the Law Society of Kenya in Kisumu branch to figure out how to navigate this unprecedented times around COVID-19, the pandemic, and legal practice. And so we'd want to just invite you as you join the webinar. We are live on YouTube on Lawyers Hub Africa. If you can ask your friends as well to join. But if you're on the Zoom webinar, you'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to engage a little bit more with the panelists. And so we want to invite you and thank you for joining us. My colleague here is going to be introduced shortly, but I would want to hand over to Byron all the way from Kisumu, who will be able to take it up from here. Thank you. Okay. Apologies for that. Byron, can you hear us? I'll hand over to Jackie, who will take it up from here. Jackie, can you hear me?
Byron is back.
Okay. Please forgive us. We'll just take a few minutes to sort that out. Byron, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Please take it away.
Jackie.
What has happened?
Okay. This is why we need better internet across the country, not just in Nairobi. Jackie, can you hear us? Okay. And I'd ask Justice Fred if you can connect to audio as well. Just connect to audio so we'll be able to hear you. Thank you so much. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. I see, thank you so much. I see everyone, you can join in on the chat as well. If you have any questions or comment, just go on the chat and ask your question. Yeah, if you have any comment as well, we have a Q&A session as well. Please feel free to go on the Q&A session and make any comments on the same. And so I'm not sure if you've got a hold of Jackie or Byron. Are we able to proceed? Because Jackie is supposed to give us a few ground rules. If that's not possible, I'll ask Senior James Mwamu if he can be able to proceed.
I'm all right.
We can, please proceed. Yes. Senior, please proceed, James Mwamu.
Yes.
Yes.
I am very much on, Linda. How are you?
We are fine. You have two gadgets. You have to put off one of them. It's giving feedback, and then we can proceed.
Okay.
Okay, that's better.
Hello. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Please forgive us for the for the connectivity issues, but I would want to see if we can proceed. Byron, can you hear us now? You good to go?
Yes, Linda, I think we can just proceed.
Yes.
Welcome everyone to this webinar. Our first speaker
just put off one of your devices, Byron, and then either your phone or your laptop. One is giving.
I'm only on one gadget.
All right, then let's proceed.
So our first speaker is a mediator, a patent agent, a mother to an awesome child, not to mention. She's a partner at Kazi LLP. She's a council member of the Law Society of Kenya. She's the convener of the ICT and IP committees of the LSK. In her practice, she specializes in technology and IP law and is always available for lawyers with regard to these areas. Without further ado, I give you Aluso Ngati. She's our first speaker. I think many of you know her. I'll turn it over to her.
Proceed. Thank you, Byron. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Justice Ocheng, my senior James Mwamu, my senior Dave, and the Lawyers Hub. Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor and privilege to be a part of this webinar and to address the challenges that we may be facing in the practice of law amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. I am a practitioner in Nairobi, and I'm a partner in the firm, Kazi Advocates LLP, and we have had sort of like a seamless transition into the virtual working environment. And this is largely because we had invested in a legal management system sometime last year. And so it was really just a matter of going fully fledged on it. So it is a very interesting way to work, but then there are challenges that come with regards to our stakeholders in terms of work and partnerships. For example, the judiciary is really trying to embrace technology and the whole virtual hearings concept and all, and I applaud that effort from the judiciary. I believe, though, that we have room for improvements if we could work together and assist each other by giving positive feedback, by taking in the criticisms that may come from various quarters. For example, just this morning, I had a small tiff with a certain registry in the country, and I had gotten delays on feedback in terms of my documents that I had submitted for action. But luckily and thankfully, after we had that conversation, I got my feedback. So I guess the various people in the registries of the judiciary need to embrace this technology aspect of doing things so that the service of delivery of justice in the judiciary can be seamless for the stakeholders, that being advocates and also the Wanjiku who is accessing the services. I also think that it is important that we lawyers be more receptive to this new way of working. We should embrace and invest in legal management systems in our firms so that we can be able to go paperless and do everything online. Of course, that comes with challenges of data security and all, but if you invest in a good system, it should be able to cover all those things. There is something that I have been noticing about us using the Gmail, the Yahoo email domains, and it looks very unprofessional. That's off the cuff. So maybe we should also look into that. We can engage our IT practitioners in the various spaces for professional advice on what would look like a good perception. Hello?
Yeah.
On what would look like a good perception in terms of a legal practitioner, in terms of a member of a judiciary, in terms of an owner of a law firm. We also have situations where lawyers appear for hearings dressed inappropriately. I think we, as the Law Society of Kenya, I say we because I sit in the Council of the Law Society of Kenya, through the Practice Standards Committee, we should come up with policies on how advocates should conduct themselves during the virtual hearings, during the the chats during the webinars and all. There are ways in which we should deal. If you're appearing before a judge or a magistrate, it is important that you dress appropriately, just the same way you would dress when you're going to court, a physical open court. You should address them appropriately, like ordinarily, because just because you're appearing virtually does not mean this is not a professional environment or a professional engagement. We also need to come up with guidelines in terms of how to conduct our hearings while dealing with witnesses, the whole conduct of a witness, body language, and etc. These, I think, are things that should be addressed between the members of the Law Society of Kenya through the branches under the Practice and Welfare, Section 24 of the Act, and the bar bench committees and the court users committee, so that we can come up with a wholesome way of dealing in terms of how to address issues of, because during a cross-examination, I believe that it is important for the judicial officer to be able to assess the witness who is on the stand and what testimony they are giving. And, there are all these things that influence a decision of a judge while making the determination of the matter. So I would propose and suggest that we come together as members of the legal sector to come up with policies, guidelines, and regulations that can be used during this new way of dealing with the prosecutive purposes. I am largely a young lawyer. I just turned 6 years in the profession. Yes?
Yeah, proceed.
Yeah, I am largely a young lawyer, and I would like to speak to my colleagues who are in my space in terms of practice. It is not very easy, but I think we should be able to think outside the box, away from the norm, in terms of areas of practice, in terms of the way we do things, in terms of dealing with your clients who may be what is happening with our matters now that the courts are not fully functional, the registries, the companies' registries have reduced their ways of dealing, their business registration services registries are not fully functional. It is important that you keep your clients on board in terms of communication, information, check on them. Don't bill them for that. Just let them know that things are not very, things are not normal, but we are working towards moving forward and finding ways of dealing. They should not get worried and concerned about their matters. It is your duty as their lawyer to assure them that everything is okay. You can give them information. Like for me, I have been doing a lot of write-ups in the form of legal opinions on various issues and sharing with the clients in various spaces. They appreciate that information. You make things easy for them. Let them understand that as much as we are all in this space and facing various difficulties, it does not mean that your operations in the law firm or if you're employed somewhere in the corporate world or space, work is still going on. Just assure them, just don't go AWOL on them, absent without leave on your clients. Maybe I need to, there's a question that had been fronted to me that says, well, we fault the judiciary for not having a reliable or fully functional online or ICT system. Are lawyers any better?
It appears we have lost you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
And now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So where did you lose me at?
Okay.
I think you have to go on.
Proceed.
Okay, so yes, lawyers, we have the tech savvy category of lawyers and we have the not so tech savvy category of lawyers. And I think we should help each other because I keep saying mentorship is not just about information coming up, going down. It is both ways. So you find that most of the not so tech savvy lawyers are our seniors who've been ahead of us. And that's because they came into the profession when things were being done the old way, in terms of, there was not so much in terms of technology. But some of us came on board, joined the profession when tech was a thing, and we embrace it, and it's a part of us. We've grown up in this environment, so it is not a challenge. I would advise that we help each other. We that are okay with this new way of doing things, we that are finding it so easy to, carry on, we should assist our colleagues, our seniors, judicial officers who may be having a challenge, because it's not simple.
Everybody else able to hear the good lady, because I'm not able to hear anymore.
Okay, sorry, Justice. We'll just look on your chat. Victor has a few instructions for you on how we can make it a little better. But all the panelists, if you could just go in the chat and let us know if you can hear us. Just let us know if you can hear this, please just type on the chat and let us know I can hear you, so we know what we can fix quickly.
Hello.
All right. Meanwhile, I'll ask Byron if you can call the justice and see what we can do. Yeah.
Well, again, I've lost them. I'm trying to get back in. The volume is not coming at all.
Okay.
Just call Victor urgently.
Okay. So David can hear, Dolphina can hear us, Jackie can hear, Joanne Nato can hear us, Joe, you can hear us, Susan Mayra can hear. So I think that's, yeah, okay, that can be sorted. So we are sorting out the judge. Okay, thanks Duncan, Flavian. I think we're good. We'll sort out the judges shortly. Okay, it's on his end, which is we're trying to fix. So I think, Alyssa, you can proceed as we fix it.
Yes. Also, Byron, you need to keep me on toes in terms of time so that I don't speak till tomorrow. So what I was saying is we need to assist each other. We need to assist each other in embracing technology, in how to go about these things. I have colleagues that we've been handling matters together who have called me and told me, you know, this idea, I don't even understand these things. And you just help each other and show each other how these things work. You can tell them and show them how to, for example, Zoom, how you can use a free account, how you can use a paid for account, how much time you have on that account, how many people you can admit on that account. These are things that are not taught anywhere, but we have to learn them because this is how we are dealing right now. The challenges that come with, for example, we now need to have an AGM as a Law Society of Kenya, and we need permission to host that kind of thing. So let us help each other. We have the mentorship program under the Law Society of Kenya, and we did not foresee such kind of a situation, but I would advise the Young Lawyers Committee convener together with the mentorship board to maybe amend the program and the document so that it can capture the issues of technology and how we can assist each other in the mentorship within the mentorship framework. And on the side of the judiciary, I would really, really plead that as much as the magistrates and judges are really working hard towards making things work, some of the people in the registry's end are not very cooperative in terms of working with we lawyers who interact with the registries in the various courts. I would advise that maybe, you know, liaise with them and encourage them to understand why it's important that we all cooperate so that we can move forward as a profession, as a legal sector, and and give justice to the members of the public. I had also received some queries about what would be an ideal legal practice management system. And well, for obvious reasons, I would just talk about what I have been using at the office, because that is what I have interacted with. I'm using the system called Global Wakili, and they currently are running a campaign dubbed Wakili Digitika na Corona, which is basically, you know, they're helping firms to embrace technology in legal practice, litigation, and commercial practice. Maybe we can later, I can share their contacts so that you can liaise with them. They give trainings and they carry you through the whole process. If you get any glitches, they will help you. And then I will also share a write-up that I had done earlier in April to the members of the society on what you should look out for in a legal management system, because this will essentially carry your law firm with you wherever you go. For example, I have my firm here right now. I can do anything I want with it. I really don't need to go to their office. And maybe we should now change perceptions in terms of running law firms, because honestly, I feel I have a law firm, I have an office because of perceptions, not because I really need that office. Because with this management system, everything is literally on my computer and on my phone. So I do not know if I have addressed everything that may be needed of me, but I am available to answer any questions so that we may be able to capture everyone's needs and concerns under the topic we have at hand.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I should
Sorry?
sincere apologies.
Thank you, Alyssa, for that informative and insightful talk. Issues on this embracing technology. Jackie.
Yes. Good afternoon, colleagues. My sincere.
So I'll introduce our.
I was supposed to do the introduction, but unfortunately, I had a technical glitch. I don't know whether we are together. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I think Jackie, you'll go first as we fix. There's a problem with Byron's mic as well. So Byron, will just keep you on mute as Jackie goes. Please, Jackie.
Yes, as I said, my sincere apologies. I don't know whether the internet decided to conspire with me so that we all know that some of the challenges we're experiencing are real time. So I wish to welcome this online discussion that has been organized by the Lawyers Hub. Thank you so much, Linda, and your team for allowing the Law Society of Kenya Kisumu chapter to host this very. We all know the challenges the COVID-19 has posed to the world. And for us lawyers, we have seen that firsthand. And for lawyers, it's something we would describe as we've been pushed to the wall. So we are between a rock and a hard place. One moment we want to generate income because we solely depend on, majority of us solely depend on practice as a source of income. And at the same time, we do not want to put ourselves at risk in terms of the COVID exposure. So today's discussion, we want to hear more from the judiciary, experiences from lawyers, and also as a counselor psychologist, because we understand how COVID-19 has affected us lawyers in terms of our social behavior and changes that we have experienced generally. So today's discussion will be moderated by myself, Jacqueline Ngutia, and Brian Menezes. We have 5 speakers. Our former president, East Africa Law Society, Agri Mwamu, will start off with the welcoming remarks. Aluso Ingati, thanks for stepping in. I see you've already made your remarks. We'll then go to Siganga, and then Lilnet Yogo, a counselor, will share with us tips on how to cope with the stresses associated with COVID-19. And then we'll then hear from Justice Ochieng. I know we all want to hear from him what goodies you have for us, because we are really depending on the judiciary for our bread and butter. And lastly, we'll have Linda to also share her best practices on utilizing ICT. And then our chair, Joan Neto, will then close the session. So some bit of ground rules. We are all muted, save for the speakers who are able to unmute and start videos. If you want to post a question, there is a section there. You can do that. You can either raise your hand, and the Lawyers Hub will allow you to ask a question, or you can type your question. We are recording this session, so it's good that you all are aware that if you find yourself on YouTube, you don't get surprised how come my voice was recorded on my photo. So just for information that the session is online. And unfortunately, you have seen with me, if you have a technical hitch on your side, we cannot do anything. So you just have to sort it by yourself from that end. I would kindly request that Byron, former President Mwamu, to start off with the welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. It is good to see Justice Ochieng in very informal circumstances rather than appearing before him in court. And I think part of the reason why we picked up this particular topic is because of the challenges that we have been meeting. That is the lawyers, the justice sector, and we have tried to bring all sorts of speakers to touch various areas that deals with our mental soundness, areas that deals with the issues of bread and butter. And this is a new normal. Just like Aluso Igati observed that there are a lot of us who are still resistant to this change. But I think that this is something that we have to embrace. We are going to have challenges in future, but I think this is something that we have to embrace. May I take this opportunity to welcome all the speakers, David Siganga, Aluso Igati, Mrs. Yogo, and we are looking to very serious discussions. We are not here, of course, to blame anybody, but we are here to find solutions and to find answers to some of the things that are facing both lawyers and the people who are in judicial sector today. So may I take this opportunity to welcome all of you. Let's have a fruitful discussion. This program was brought by lawyers. The lawyers, the Lawyers Hub, together with the Rapid Response team, which I chair. That is the Kisumu Rapid Response team, charged with looking after the welfare of lawyers and dealing with many other things. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Byron, you can proceed. The next speaker. So our next speaker is Dave Siganga, who practices law in Kisumu, the firm of Siganga and Company Advocate. He is also a lecturer of law at Kisii University College. We have brought him on board because he is an employer. As a partner of the firm, he employs lawyers. He has also employed legal support staff. So we just want to hear from him how he's been able to navigate through these very hard economic times, and if there are any best practices he can share with the rest of the members. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you very much. Hoping that I'm audible. Good afternoon, am I audible?
Yes, Dave, we can hear you.
That's good news. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for this particular initiative. I'm an employer. I have been also employed. So I would try and merge those two experiences to a very unusual situation that we have now. In employment for now, the big thing is, of course, we don't have any money. And so therefore, we do not have any satisfaction. I mean, this is a profession where you want to enjoy what you trained for. And enjoying beyond what you do is to actually make some business sense out of it. And initially, when I was contacted, I was asked, what else can we do apart from just practice? And I said, no, let me start off with what we can do as practitioners. Then we can build it on to what we can do beyond practice, and hoping that it will be interactive so that I don't look like I'm imposing any sort of very clever thoughts to anybody. I take it that we will interact and try and chew this over and see what solutions we can come to. But the big one, of course, is that now we are not working. I mean, I'm looking at my senior, Mr. Mwamu, he's got no tie on. I don't remember where my ties are or my flap. And it's difficult in that sense. And we then, because we are not here, our clients are not coming, and new clients are not coming. Those clients who would have come in to pay us are not coming. Everybody says, ngoja corona ikwishe. And it's pretty frustrating for that because we still have overheads. I have to pay my rent here. I have staff who basically send a message like good morning, but what they're saying is, look, we're broke. We don't have any money on us. We need to pay our taxes and on time. And what has been happening, which is pretty painful, because I have, and I know many of my former students are here today, and there are some newly admitted who have just gotten into employment, are having their jobs, losing their jobs within a month or two of taking them on, or even a year, just because, well, now there's not much coming in, and there isn't much that we can do until it's a very uncertain situation with the COVID. So there are those who have lost jobs, and from what you and I know, lawyers, we first of all don't have contracts. We're the worst with just practicing what we preach. And so you're just told, oh, well, from tomorrow, don't come. You don't have any buffer financially. redundancies, there is a procedure. We keep arguing about those procedures in the Employment and Land Court, but in our own offices, we somehow, by a sleight of hand, just dismiss everybody. And it's a thing that probably we would not want to, but which has come to us. So we are, as an employer, I'm having to grapple particularly with my overheads with regard to my presence in this particular office and with staff issues. And the bigger thing, of course, for myself and my partner, who I'm sure is somewhere also saying, what about us? We're not satisfied with just this hiatus of we're not practicing, we're not making money. Now, something has been said earlier about the embrace of technology. One of the challenges, of course, for us, even for us having this interactive session is what Aluso Ingati has just talked about. Lawyers of my generation who started practice. I saw a mobile phone when I was 2 years in practice. So we have that still, it's a hard climb for many of the practitioners, about 5,000 or 6,000 of us who don't have this particular skill. And now court has come up with a system where it is the way to go, and which we appreciate. But I must emphasize here that the things that the judiciary is trying to do now, I saw in 2001, where apart from not having a camera, we were able to have a system where we would file documents online, we would collect proceedings. A minute after concluding your matter, you would actually collect your proceedings by also paying on a system. It was a credit card system. So yes, it's a climb that we have started, but it can be done. It's been done elsewhere. And I'm sure that in those areas where I saw it, it may have improved practice tremendously. And I'm sure that we will also benefit from that sort of growth. Now, the direction we face as practitioners is what will we need to do better so that if there is ever a situation where there is a pandemic or anything that would take away from traditional practice, we can survive. One of the things which I have told to, particularly those people who interacted with me in class, is that when you set up the gravy train, what they feel as young practitioners is that as soon as I get out of this, I will set up my office and be successful. And it might not happen. It will happen probably a few years later, or it might not at all. And it might be in their interests to come together. And so one of the things I emphasize to them is come together as young advocates or as advocates. Let's not have too many small holdings, because going forward, the larger you are, then the more attractive you are, the more confidence you then elicit from those who will be giving your services to. Then what else can we do? Because we are fishing in fairly shallow waters where we do usual things. What sort of practice areas can we then explore? It agonized me a few years ago to go to the HIV tribunal. I first of all didn't know that it existed. Second of all, I didn't know where it was. It was worse because I had never at any time known how to conduct a hearing at that place. And I'm grateful for those who I met there who knew that it was a new area. And in developing of this particular paper, I established 14 tribunals which are in existence. They're on Kenya law, and they are calling for us to go there. The one I really regret that I haven't been to, and which we should all go, is the Tax Appeals Tribunal. It's being conducted by people who are professional accountants. Ideally, they're talking about law there. They don't talk about figures, which we might not be very good with. I confess that I'm not, but it's law. And they'll just use a little bit of the law in there and be able to get outcomes. And the cases in there, they can be really big. And also at the HIV tribunals, I have been there on an occasion when a person was awarded about 5 million shillings. It's long since I had a pronouncement of a judgment for 5 million or 1 million or 2 million. It's something that is being done at tribunal level. So that might be just one area that we might want to go into. And talking about research as well, there are institutions which would wish to come in and invest and would like to understand the legal terrain. There are people who are actually players in just writing research for this sort of organizations. And research doesn't need you to have, you don't need to have an audience yet. You could write for the benefit of 2 or 3, or for your own development of an idea, and then expose it to other people. So even for what we're talking about, IT and research, there are colleagues in Kisumu who had started something. If you remember, they said, look, we keep saying that anybody in Maseno, anybody in Winam, anybody in this, why can't we have a system where if you just go into an app and say Winam, 3 or 4 names pop up, and you're able to then interface with those people and ask them to hold your brief, to do your light duties, etc. And these are things that are coming from within us. They're intrinsic in us. And I think that they can still be developed to be able to, as an alternative to traditional areas of practice. I initially started with the issue of us coming together, mainly for like government work or corporate work, and some of which is not traditional litigation, but more giving of opinions, giving of reviews of certain other opinions. So if we are together as a bigger, if we have set up individual firms where we have a leeway to set up, say, consortiums, and we come together and we can then net some of that work, which might be going elsewhere. You might find that foreigners are actually coming in and taking work that ideally is ours. Courts and IT, we talk about, that have been addressed by the previous speaker, Ms. Aluso Ingati. So I'd like to just keep that, but only in passing say that, yes, there's place for digitization of our files. All these things we carry to court. It might be useful to just have them on a gadget. The problem with that, of course, is that as soon as the tax authorities get to hear that we are now no longer carrying paper, they might get interested in the gadgets that we carry and start levying any sort of tax on it. But well, let's cross that when we get there. But it's an area that I think we can build on. In any sort of business, because now I'd like to talk about things that we can do that are beyond law. But in any sort of business, what we need to have are certain building blocks. And for us as practitioners, what has changed is the way we did things. And as Mr. Mwamu said, Senior, this is the new normal. We then have to then restructure most of what we have, review it. I mean, if Ms. Aluso Ingati has her entire office on that small gadget, and I have in front of me a heap of files, then probably I'm doing something wrong. But to review that in the light of making things very easy for us to conduct as businesses, cut out financial attrition. And that is where, for example, other professions would come together, have one common place, one clerk, one driver, one reception, and cut out those expenses, which we could buy one newspaper. There's no need to buy 6, or subscribe for everybody to a newspaper. Those are things that actually cause us to bleed finances. And embracing a savings culture. When Jackie Ngutia said something about how I am surviving in these hard times, I almost interjected and said, I'm actually not surviving, I'm sort of coasting, because there were no savings. And advocates the culture of having an existence from check to check must stop. We must have a buffer where we are able to put away 10-20% on a disciplined basis and just say, this will be for a rainy day. Yeah. And then our tax obligations still need to be met. It's a challenge for me as an employer, because every 7th or 6th, even for now that we have closed, and even at the moment, we have to call in the accountant to tell us what we need to pay. it becomes a bit difficult if you don't have the money to do it, and we are waiting for this. But there are instances where they can allow you a little bit of time. You can make an application directly to the Revenue Authority, and they give you a little bit of time for you to meet that particular obligation. The bigger problem is, of course, that you might ask for time and still in that time be unable to raise the funds. So it takes me back to the first place of what can we do to actually generate more. And then lastly, I'd like to talk about business opportunities beyond what we are traditionally exposed to. We are trained to be lawyers. My generation of practitioners didn't go through a course in business planning or business management. I hear that that is now something that is central to training at the Advocates Training Program, the School of Law, which is commendable because it then exposes them to a business side which we as older practitioners were not exposed to. Now, in this, I'll take two examples. One, on the instance when we had service for advocates at the Anglican Cathedral at the beginning of the year. After that event, one of the participants came and said, "Advocates, you just stood up and introduced yourself by name. You didn't say where we can find you. You didn't say what you actually do. Barbers are telling us that I can shave your hair in this style. Hairdressers are selling that idea that we can actually do something additional to when you come in for a haircut, you can do your nails." Advocates are not, we're still a bit coy about advertising our services. And I think now we have a platform where we can advertise a little bit more, market ourselves a little bit more, use our networks a lot more, because we interact with all sorts of professionals and they sell their ideas to us and they sell us a contact, and which we can then contact them on a need-to basis. And we need to be doing the same to those who we interact with. And on that very point also, we need to make references, because there are people who are specializing. Even when I'm talking about areas that are non-legal or non-conventional, there are those who are specializing. And we know them because they are in certain courts, and we know that they like that sort of practice, and so we can make referrals to those people. And those people should also be able to, in their small way, let everybody know that they actually do that sort of work. Now, in setting up any business, of course, we then have to attract the capital, and knowing we are very unattractive to some of these institutions as practitioners when we go for loans. But we can use what we already have. The Sacco is present, the Law Society Sacco. They generally are very useful to help us kit our offices. Now that we are talking about embracing IT, it is an area that we can actually even petition the LSK Sacco to set up a particular fund only for the purposes of enriching our IT experience. So that going forward, the instances that we are talking about, Global Wakili and others, those are homegrown solutions to problems that we face as practitioners, and every jurisdiction you will find a homegrown solution. A question has been posed to us in the light of IT, what we can do about the incongruence between what courts are doing, setting up dates for us, which now to us are inconvenient. It's a very resolvable problem in my view. In the experience I had, the court had a digital diary where they said on the 20th of May, we are available for 10 hearings, 10 mentions, 10 applications. And we as advocates would apply. And they would say, oh yeah, before that, they would say for cases between maybe 2005 and 2010, we have the following days available for hearings, mentions, etc., so that we rank them according to their the year that they were filed. So you would then apply and say, I want my application dated this to be had on that Wednesday, 20th of May. And then the court would communicate to you directly and say, yes, we have identified your case and we have slotted it in for that day, so that it's now convenient to us. We could then even go further, if that has not taken root, to have a call over, a virtual call over of the files where we can get a list and just indicate that we are ready for this and that. And we have the resources now, we have the staff in place, we should be able to embrace that. I have taken a little bit more time than I thought, and I would wish to stop there with just one additional, that conventional practice is going to change. We will have to change our practices, and we also have to change, we have to open up to new businesses. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Dev Siganga, for the very insightful discussions. What I've gained from you is that we are all suffering. You said we're not, we are coping with the situation. As an employer, you have noted the concerns of trying to get salaries for your employees, but you've also tasked the lawyers to look beyond practice and embrace ICT. I hope to see more lawyers practicing before other judicial tribunals. And as you say, the future is ICT. So our next speaker is Lynette Odidi Yogo. I don't know whether she's online. I can't seem to see her. Is Lynette, Linda, is Lynette available? I can't seem to see her on my screen. Linda, Byron, anyone who can help to confirm whether Lynette Yogo is on board?
To spotlight you. I don't know.
I can't hear you, Lynette, Linda, sorry. Is Lynette online?
Okay.
Is she online? As we wait for the confirmation, I can see Aluso has posted details of a person in charge of the Global Wakili platform. You can reach out to him to assist you understand how you can then incorporate IT in our work. As we wait for Lynette, I don't think.
Okay. We are unable to find Lynette.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So maybe we should proceed with the next session. Justice Ochieng. Judge, thank you so much for creating time to be with us. There's been a general perception that lawyers are not supporting the judiciary's effort in addressing COVID and access to justice issues. But I have to inform you, Judge, that for the region, what we are looking out for is our bread and butter. We want to ensure that citizens are able to access justice, but at the same time, ensuring the Ministry of Health protocols are adhered to. So the questions that the society would want to put out to you, Judge, is within the region, we don't seem to have uniformity in terms of practice within the courts under your jurisdiction. We have courts in the region accepting physical hearing and physical filing of documents. So you could maybe shed more light on why other courts are doing that and others are not doing that. The other issue is how compliant, ICT compliant are all courts within the region. And this is evidence, lawyers are complaining that there are courts who do not respond to emails promptly and don't even give directions once matters have been filed. So we'd also want to hear from you around that area. The status of delivery of judgments and rulings by all judicial officers within the region. And then there is the issue of blanket stay of execution. There was a directive that had direction from the NCAJ that had given blanket stay of execution. But lawyers' concern is that we are receiving different interpretation from different courts around that. So the concerns are if stay of executions are granted, then what would happen against the bread and butter. You only are able to enjoy the fruits of justice, and at times you have to then enforce or even execute. Lastly would be on mediation. We heard from the CRJ sometimes back that you have embraced virtual mediations. I don't know whether that is happening within the jurisdiction of this court. Yes, I would kindly request that you share more around those lines. But if you have any other information that would benefit lawyers in terms of navigating through this pandemic, we would be very grateful. Thank you so much, Judge. You're welcome.
We can't hear him.
Okay.
Judge,
I think that
we can't hear you, Judge.
We cannot hear you. Yeah.
okay, it's okay? No, we still can't hear you, Judge.
Kindly check your mic settings.
Just speak, Judge, you see if we can, we can't hear you. Chingo Ginga also says we can't hear you. Joseph and Betty says they can't hear the judge. Sorry, we can't hear.
What is the problem?
So I think what we'll do, Jackie. Okay. We can't hear the judge.
I can't hear the judge, yes.
So we'll just request him to, to leave the webinar and then come back so that he can accept the audio settings that have been put there. Is that okay? We'll just give it a minute or two. If you can just.
Okay, so while we wait for Justice Ochieng to leave and then accept the audio later, Aluso Ingat, you could maybe share with us more on how young lawyers, because majority of young lawyers have just set up firms, and what advice would you give in terms of ensuring then they can pull resources together and have accessible ICT services? Don't know what's been happening to lawyers in Nairobi.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. First, I would advise my fellow colleagues to minimize overheads as much as possible.
Kindly, we can't. You're a bit low. We can hear you, but not. Yes, that's better.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
I would say that if my fellow colleagues would like to start law firms, then by all means go ahead, but keep your overheads very, very minimal, especially in these uncertain days of COVID, and we don't know when this whole situation will end. It is a very fulfilling journey, but it is not a walk in the park, because I meet my colleagues younger and some on my same category, and they imagine that it is easy because things seem to be okay, perceptions and all, but the reality on the ground is not a walk in the park. So think through it all very critically, have your business plans in place, know where you want to go in, say, 1 year from now, when you start a farm, 2 years, 3 years, have a 5-year plan. What are your immediate steps that you want to achieve? And who is your target market? What law do you want to practice? Do you have the LSK Law Firm Management Manual, which should guide you from scratch to at least to get you to the basics? How do you relate with your colleagues in the profession? Because you have to work with them. And these are things of professional ethics that we were taught in university, and they come in handy when you're out here practicing and hustling for clients, So I would, as my senior Dave Siganga said, it is better, it is advisable to join hands and work together as a team as opposed to doing it solo, because one, it is in terms of being in terms of getting briefs that make sense, you really have to be, you know, an entity, not just alone, unless you were born in the money and you have all the networks right on a silver platter. Some of us didn't have that luxury. So find people you can work with, embrace each other, diversify, and you know, everyone has a gift that you do not have, and just tap into all that and live one day at a time. Do not, don't strive to achieve these big things and in such a short time, because you will be tempted to do things that are not good. For example, eating your client's money. And you know, as a lawyer, you're given, there's a lot of trust that is given to you as an advocate. Your client's account could have the millions, but your personal account could have zero, and you're not supposed to touch that money. So those are the things. It comes with a lot of discipline and hard work and dedication. For example, these past 2 months for me have been a lot of looking for work and no money coming in. But that does not stop me from doing what I'm doing. I keep pushing and I keep going. So by all means, if you want to go into private practice, proceed. It is a very exciting journey. Lakini ukwe na roho ngumu. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Luso, for the good thoughts. I hope my colleagues, the young lawyers, have been able to heed to your advice. Justice Ochieng, I don't know how, whether you can hear it. I kindly try again and see whether we can hear you.
Okay. He has to leave the webinar so that he can accept the audio settings. So if anyone could call him, please do. He has to, yeah, so he can't hear. If anybody could call him to actually leave the webinar, then when he rejoins, accept the audio settings. That's okay? So yeah, so let's hope that.
Can you reach out to the good judge?
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. President, and is Lynette Odidi back, or is she even here?
Let me try to reach the judge, see if he can leave.
To leave the group and accept, when he joins back, to accept the audio settings or recording, Linda.
The audio setting, yeah.
These terminologies.
Yes, so that he can join with audio. Okay. Thank you so much. I think, Jacqueline, we have such good feedback online as well. We have about 30 lawyers who are watching on YouTube. And we also have, intermittently, we've had about 100 or so lawyers who are joining us on the webinar here. And so we'd want to just urge you to keep tuning in, because I think this is very useful. We've had learnings as well. I think from the Lawyers Hub end, we have been thrown on the deep end. We were a little used to, you know, physical events and physical discussions. We had an experience, I think in January, when we were doing the Africa Law Tech Festival. We were unable to travel to different countries to do the events, but we managed to broadcast our events live to Rwanda, to Nigeria, and also to Uganda. And so I think for every lawyer, regardless of what sector you are in, we all are having challenges during this particular pandemic. But my advice to you would be to, just move fast, make mistakes, break things, and then learn from it. Because when we are scared of trying out new things, it means that we don't try and we sit back. But this particular pandemic is not about sitting back. I like what Aluso has indicated, that she's been out there trying to look for clients, even within these particular circumstances. So it will be good to, capture the minds of people, even when they don't have money, so that when they get back to, normal business, then they have you in mind and they can give you that particular business as well. I think that's what I think I could say with us. There's a huge opportunity for lawyers right now to engage in writing. There are a lot of opportunities that I see now. The Commonwealth Lawyers Association put out a call for lawyers to send in their articles.
Have you reached the Justice?
Yeah, he's almost here. The East African Law Society as well has put out a call.
Yeah, just call him. I'm trying to call and he's not picking. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry?
I can imagine this is what happens in virtual hearings.
Yeah. Okay, yes. They say, my Lord, can you hear me?
Yes.
My Lord, can you see me? Can you hear me? Yeah. So yes, I'd urge lawyers to, when you have time and you don't have clients at this particular moment, you can invest a little more on writing and responding to these calls for articles. Like I mentioned, the Commonwealth Lawyers Association have a call. The East African Law Society have a call as well for articles. I think the Advocates Magazine for the Law Society also had a call as well. I think in writing, we are able to spend more time, productive time writing out and ensuring that our knowledge is actually, preserved for the next generation. And I think also as a firm, we have the big firms now that we see people are actually writing. Aluso and Kazi LLP have put out advisories on virtual hearings. We have advisories from, I think, the ENBS, I think the law firm as well, Anjaruala and Kana also have advisories out there. So I think as a lawyer, you don't necessarily need to wait for everyone to come in. You can run a blog, you can set up your website, write all these things and put them on your blog. And that's what the younger members of your law firm can do as well, because you may not even know how to run a blog, but the young lawyers within the firm, we need that synergy to ensure that, even if you have the wisdom of the old and the young have the speed, and they also have, they're also very tech savvy as well, that you can combine those efforts and ensure that you engage as a firm and get even some sort of writing going. Some law firms are doing videos as well. If you can be able to do videos, I've seen Haki app on Instagram, going out to do live sessions on Instagram to advise people, to talk about topics. I think those are the things that we can actually look for clients now and engage clients, right now. So I think those are the few comments I'd make, Jackie, on this. I'm not sure we're able to get the good judge, not yet.
But maybe Linda, you could also share with the lawyers what the Lawyers Hub is all about. For a long time, we see Lawyers Hub and we say this is Linda Lawyers Hub, Zuckerberg and stuff. So yeah. What does Lawyers Hub do, and what need for practicing lawyers in terms of getting the services that you offer?
Okay. So the Lawyers Hub is about law and technology. We look at issues that occur between, the confluence between law and technology, and these are in two areas. One, we look at how we can better use technology for access to justice. And so we are interested in people that are creating. There are lawyers who are already building applications, they have websites, and so we're looking at how we can leverage technology for access to justice. But then we're also really keen on how we can engage on tech policy. Even as we started this webinar, we've had issues around internet connectivity. We have issues around internet affordability. We have children who are staying at home now that are unable to go to school, and some schools already are running classes online. So that means that there's a gap. There's this digital divide that is caused by technology. And so we're really keen on engaging on tech policy in that particular case, but we are in innovation space, which we are now joining in from. And so we offer co-working space for lawyers, and now we are offering free working space for our members who do not have rent. They don't have money to pay rent. And so we invited them as well to join in on the co-working space so that we can explore new business models for law firms in the face of a pandemic. So if you want to know more about the Lawyers Hub, you can go to lawyershub.org and be a member of the hub. We have free trainings that we offer for our members. We link you up with partners within the ecosystem. And also we run the Africa Law Tech Festival that has a lot of information that you can gain. If you have any question on technology, if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see everything that we have done on law and technology. So I'm glad to see the Honorable Judge, he's back. And also Lynette has joined us, Dr. Lynette, karibu sana. So I'll give it back to you, Jackie.
Okay, thank you. I'll actually create time to go through your website and read more about what you do. And I can attest that seeing what you've been able to do for the Law Society of Kenya Kisumu chapter is a good step. Dr. Lynette Yogo, welcome. We missed you. I would suggest that you speak after our good judge, Justice Ochieng. I hope you can hear us and you can then respond to the questions and give your thoughts around things that we have raised. One thing that I forgot to ask is on criminal trials. The information out is that they have have been halted, save for pleas and a review of bond terms. So is it possible for the judiciary then to hear and determine simple criminal matters? Thank you.
We still have a problem with the judge's audio. I don't know how we can help.
Does he have an assistant?
So Lynette, there is still a problem with the judge's audio. I don't know how we can help.
Who was able to reach out to Justice Ochieng? Judge, I would advise you get your ICT person to assist you with the connection. If you leave the page and then when you join back, there is an icon on your top left side where you're supposed to then what is the word? Accept audio.
Okay.
Judge,
okay.
Type something. So Judge will still have to kindly call your ICT person to assist you with the connection. While we wait for that, I would invite Dr. Lynette Yogo to take us through coping with the COVID-19 situation. Dr. Lynette, you understand the impact of COVID-19 to our daily bread and butter as lawyers. So we are not able to cope with the economic impact and also the social impact associated with the COVID-19, the social distancing. We're not able to meet our friends, our way of addressing court, the rituals of appearing before a judge or a magistrate and bowing before you proceed. So it's a whole new thing for us lawyers. So how to advise lawyers on coping with the psychological and social effects of the COVID-19, because we want at the end of it all, we all appear stronger than what we are now. Welcome, Dr. Lynette Yogo, who is a psychologist. It's called psychologist what? Sorry.
I'm a therapist. I'm a psychological therapist.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you so much for having me around. I was having a bit of challenges joining the this technology thing. I think it's stressing most of us because it's something new. But human beings are resilient, so we are able to make 1, 2, 3 about the things that are new to us. So first and foremost, as we start, we need to know how is it that stress usually affects us. You know, sometimes we do not know what the symptoms of stress. So as I got in late, I think I would start immediately with the symptoms of stress and how do you know that maybe the chronic stress is affecting you. So first and foremost, we find that mainly when we have the symptoms of stress, it affects our body, it affects our mind, and it also affects our behavior and emotions. So when it comes to mind, you find that people worry too much. Sometimes we have what we call muddled thinking. We have impairment in judgment. I think sometimes now you'll notice that people are not reasoning the way they used to.
Linda.
And then people will have nightmares, some people. Then people will be indecisive. You cannot decide. You find yourself unable to decide on things. Then hyperactive. Some people will be hyperactive. Some people will be slow in movement. And some people will be able to make hasty decisions. That is when we are looking at the mind. When we are looking at the behavior, you'll find that many people are accident prone. And as I'm talking about adults and children as well. You'll find that even your children are having little accidents here and there, breaking glasses here and there. That could be because of symptoms of stress. Then there is loss of appetite, sleeping issues. I see that on social media every time, where people are calling each other, people who have insomnia, come here, we discuss. Sometimes that means that there's stress and you're not dealing with it properly. Then there's some people will drink more, maybe alcohol or substance use. Of course, I've talked about insomnia. There's restlessness, and there are other behavioral addictions that are coming in with stress. Like you'll find that for women, we might nag more, and there's gambling, there's online gambling, there's pornography. Then there's social media games. There's the media games that can also happen. Increased violence, we also need to look out for that. And for some people who've gone through chronic stress and it's led to depression, there could be suicidal ideations as well. So we need to watch all that in us and also in the children. And then for us adults, when you suddenly lack the urge to have intimacy, when sex is a no-go zone, it might not be because the other person is having a side dish or something. It could be because of stress. So that also we need to look at. And on my table, one of the complaints I'm finding most is she doesn't want me to touch her, or he just sleeps there. So we also need to look at this, because this could be because of stress as well. Then you find that bodily, right now people are coming to the clinic a lot with a lot of headache, frequent aches, that is even the urinary tract infections. Then there's fatigue, the muscle aches, there's skin irritation, breakout, breathlessness, chest pains. And if it's not medically, if there's nothing to explain it medically, then it could be because of the stress level. Your stress level are high. Then on the emotions part, you'll find that there's loss of confidence, self-esteem is going low. Remember that our finances right now is on the lower side, and we cannot keep up with the life that we knew before. So this can affect you also, your confidence level, your self-esteem. You become more fussy, you become irritable and angry most of the time. Of course, depression and anxiety can set in. Then there is some people will start dissociating themselves from people. You don't want to interact with people more. Then of course there's the apprehension, and there's the anxiety. What next? What can I do? This can also increase stomach upsets. There's some people diarrhea more. Then of course the body aches, and either gaining weight or losing weight because of the behavior, eating behavior will change. So once we've gone to that, what is it that we can do about this? Yeah. First and foremost, we need to start focusing on what is within our control. Majority of the times we focus on many things, but we don't focus on what is within our control. What is it that you can control, Because usually when people come to me, I tell them to do a circle. You do a big circle and a small circle. Inside this small circle is what is it that is in your control. How do you control this? Are you able to control what is happening in the world? No, that is not within your control. But if you can wash your hands, if you can keep safe, if you can be at home, then that is within your control. When it comes to the financial issues, you also need to look, what is it that is within my control? And then you'll find that there are a few things that we might need to do that will help us with this. So we need to start looking at what is it every time you're worried. We need to start looking at it. Is this within my control, or is this something that I can't control? We cannot predict the future, yes, but there are few things we can do that will make our future more acceptable to us. The next thing we may need to do is we need to acknowledge our thoughts. We need to acknowledge our feelings. Many a times we never know what we are thinking. Thoughts just go in and out, but it's time that we acknowledge our thoughts. Am I feeling angry? Am I able to tell my partner or my people in the house that right now that we're in the house? Am I able to tell people in the house that today I'm angry? Today I'm not feeling that well. Do I know myself first and foremost? So the first thing you need to do is embark on self-knowledge. Who are you? What do you do with yourself? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? Because that will help you during this period. So, you know, like when I'm thinking about thoughts, you will find that, especially now I'm mentioning finance, you'll find that there are some of us who, when we are sad or lonely, we tend to shop more. So if you know in yourself that right now I'm sad and it would make me shop more, then you're able to avoid these things, because self-knowledge will help you in avoiding things that you don't need to do at this time. Then also we will need to cooperate with what we call, you cooperate with the inevitable. Right now, COVID-19 is here, and we have to keep social distance. We have to wash our hands, we have to sanitize. So that is one way of cooperating with something we can't control. And then I would talk more about finance, because I'm seeing that what is frustrating people right now mostly is the money issue. So what is it that we can do? Remember that cycle of control. What is it that we can do that will help us control our finances, save more and use little in order to reduce stress? First and foremost, like, you can start by reducing. If you're staying in a rather expensive house, you can start by reducing and coming down a bit. Of course, people are taking salary cuts. Then reduction of spending. If you are to spend, maybe I'll just give an example. If every month you spend 50,000 in a month, is it possible that you can reduce your spending to half, maybe 25,000 in a month? Because we never know how long this will go, and we never know how it's going to affect us. So the more we can save, the better for us. Then we need to start redefining what is the needs that we have and what is our wants, because we might be concentrating on wants and neglecting the needs, or we must be concentrating on something that is not going to help us. So that is one way also of coping with the COVID-19. We need to cooperate with the inevitable, and cooperating with the inevitable will mean, right now people are going through, we are using a lot of the media, we're using a lot of internet for these things. So you also have to find out, how is the internet going to work for you? Because that's the best way that we can do our things. Even right now for us who are doing counseling, we are doing most of it online. So we have to start cooperating with the fact that we are going to do things online more. Then the other thing that you can do is, we now need to look at ourselves. People are in the house and we are not used to being in the house, and majority of us were going out and coming back. So, you know, the moment you're all in the house, the children, the parents, there's a lot of conflicts that's going to come by. You'll start realizing that, so this child has been behaving like this. Then you'll start realizing that my wife was like this, or my husband is like this. And then there's a lot of conflicts that are going to come up. In fact, right now, the gender-based violence is on the increase, because people are not able to control themselves, contain themselves. Remember, one symptom of chronic stress is anger, irritability. So what is it that you can do about your irritability? And usually when people get irritated, or when people get into anger issues, you find that our communication style also changes. There are people who, during this time, because of the conflicts, we might develop being passive. Being a passive communicator means you might not say what you want to say, you might be afraid to say, or something like that. Or sometimes you might find yourself not able to communicate your needs and want effectively, but at the same time, it hurts you. So you keep on keeping things in your heart and not saying them out, and it's hurting you. Then the other communication style that people might adopt is aggressiveness. There are people who now become aggressive because the anger is still going on. Then you become aggressive. You find yourself hitting people more. You find yourself being sarcastic. You find yourself trying to humiliate the other person. So these are things that we now need to start looking. How am I communicating with the other person? And then the other communication style that I find people are getting into right now is passive aggressive. A majority of us might be in this field where we are passive aggressive communicators. We might not say what we want to say. We might not even do our needs, and we look out for other people more than ourselves. Then at the end of the day, this makes us feel bad. We get other emotions coming in, like anger, frustrations, and this would lead us to do things that we don't do. I'm sure majority of you, you've read news or you've seen these things or heard someone who wakes up and kill their family. It usually happens when someone has changed their communication style and maybe you've become passive aggressive. So the reason why I'm emphasizing on passive aggressive, they don't communicate much, but when push comes to shove, they're the people who'll wake up one day and kill someone, wake up one day and commit suicide. So you need to start looking at yourself. How am I communicating? And are you able to change your communication? Look at your thoughts and change into assertive communication. Assertive communication is usually the best because here you're able to say what you want to say and you're able to communicate your wants. You respect the other person and also expect the other person to respect you. So as we cope with COVID and as we cope with conflicts at home, we need to start with ourselves. What is my preferred communication style and how can I improve it to be the best? So I think as we go on, we also need to start taking care of ourselves, you know. When you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your business, you also need to start taking care of yourself. What do you do to take care of yourself? And one thing that we need not to miss is exercise. Whether you're doing it at home, whether you're walking, you need to do exercise. And if possible, at least you do 30 minutes every day, because that is what is going to give you the feel-good hormones, which will counter the hormones that keeps you in the worrying state. So we need to at least do exercise. We need to limit bad news. You know, like every day there's an update of COVID, people are reaching 1,000. That will keep you more in anxiety. So sometimes maybe we might need to put that I'm only watching news twice in the day, or I'll only limit it to once. And for some of us, we've just decided whatever it is, it will be. I will cooperate with it as it comes by, as much as we are keeping safe and keeping sound. Then, of course, you also need to know what resources do you have, because right now we need to find out our resources. Whether we have an emotional problem, we need to find out who is it that can help me. It can be your relative, it can be the church, it can be anybody. If you're feeling bad, who is it that you can talk to? Who is it that you can share with? That is also something that we need to look at. And then in resources also, now that health is also a problem, we need to look at where can I go for help? If, let's say, someone falls sick at night and I suspect it could be COVID, do I have the ambulance number I can call? You know, we start looking for such information so that we have resources around. If it's financial issues, who can I ask to help me financially? Because you'll find that some people right now might not even have food to eat, might not even have how to pay their rent. Is there someone you can talk to? Is there a bank that can, is there a bank that can lend you, something like that? Can we do something about it? So if you remember that circle of control, is this something you can control? And if you can control it, how do you control it? Those are the things that we need to do. And then also remember that your thoughts might not be accurate. What you're thinking might not be what it is. So try and look at your thoughts. Am I thinking rationally here? Remember that stress can make your thoughts not be right. Yeah. So it can create thought distortions. So you need to look at your thoughts. Am I thinking right? And if I'm thinking right, can you ask someone who's able to support you? Do you think this thought is the right thing to think about? So I think those are the few things that we can do. So you can practice that. Of course, keep distance. And then when we talk about social distance, of course, right now, sometimes I go to see even my mom, and I feel so sad that I can't hug her. Of course, we need to try and safeguard other people as well as ourselves. So this is one of the things we talk about: cooperate with the inevitable, because we can be a danger to other people can be a danger to us. But at the same time, you can keep talking to people on social media, phone, those things can still work. Then remember, in acknowledging your feelings, right now many people are grieving. Grief is not only happening when someone dies. Grief happens when you've lost something. Some people have lost their livelihood. They don't know how it's going to happen. We have lost our lifestyle. So we are grieving. Be gentle with yourself. Even as you're grieving through this period, it's a loss. Any loss will cause grief. So be gentle with yourself. There are feelings that would come, but make sure you do the right thing for you and ask for help as much as you can. I don't know if there's someone with questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynette. I would kindly urge members to post their questions on the wall, or they can raise their hands. And I would also request that you share your contact details on how a member can reach out to you. And thank you. I have noticed that a number of us, examples of stress-related symptoms. For me, I've lost count on the number of water glasses I've broken in my house. I didn't even know that that is actually stress. And I know majority of us can relate to all the symptoms. She has given examples, the issue of fatigue, chest pains. You find colleagues saying they're unwell. And how then can we cooperate the inevitable?
Yes.
So COVID is here with us. And from the look of things, it is here to stay. So how do we then focus on things that we can control and things that we cannot control? And the parting shot that I like, Lynette, is that we should not always look out for resources only within resources in the context of money. Yeah. Friends, families we can reach out to. We can reach out to our banks to negotiate the interest rate and stuff. So we really appreciate. And I remember there's this joke that was going around social media that it's unfortunately now a pilot is in the house, yet a motorcycle rider is earning money. Yes. So we really have to focus on what we can control. Thank you so much. Tizo Chieng, I think we can now hear you. Could kindly try and say hello to the participants.
Well, hello. Can you hear me? Finally, I'm there.
Yes.
Yeah. What magic has happened?
It's good that we have all experienced this challenge. So when you're moving, you'll be noting that it's not something that is only for the judges, but also for us lawyers. Thank you, Judge. Kindly proceed. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It was very frustrating, obviously, but I can relate to a lot of what has been said. Those who may not know me well may not know that for the longest time I was in private practice. And therefore issues of financial discipline are things which are well known to me. But for today, I wear the heart of a judge. I will therefore swiftly move to the questions posed to me. One, I have been asked whether or not there can be uniformity in the manner in which the judiciary handles its matters. Generally, as I understand it, across the country and in particular within Kisumu, there is uniformity. My attention was drawn yesterday by Joanne Neto to 3 court stations, Maseno, Nyando, and Tamu, as possibly operating as near normal as possible. They are allowing filing of hard copy applications and pleadings. I have checked with the respective court stations, And they tell me, Judge, it is not true. What is it that is not true? That they are not allowing any filings or not allowing filings by hard copies? What is not true is that they are not allowing hard copies to be filed as a matter of course. But that is the same also in Kisumu. Even in the High Court, people who have certificates of urgency are being allowed and are filing hard copies. It is then transmitted to me electronically, and I deal with it from wherever I am. That applies to the Chief Magistrate and the other magistrates and my colleague judges too. And in Tamu, I've talked to Madam Rugut. She assures me that in certificates of urgency and on 3 occasions so far, where applicants are in person and either she or her second in command are on duty, they have exceptionally allowed the party in person to address them, but without other persons being present so as to be able to comply with the health requirements. Are we able to allow criminal trials to proceed? As I understand it, across the board, throughout the country, no criminal trials are proceeding where you require witnesses to testify. And that is not because the judiciary does not want to have witnesses testify, but because the health authorities have told us it is very, very difficult to control. You have no idea where a witness is going to travel from. Have they gone through a test or not? Or is it only the temperature which has been taken, which is merely the beginning? And then how many people do you allow in, and so on? So it's not the judiciary's decision, but the health authorities how to handle witnesses. And it's for that reason that so far we are not dealing with criminal trials, except where, say, there is a murder trial and the only person waiting to testify is the accused, who has no other witnesses to be called, which will then put us in a problem with the health authorities. So you're right, the criminal trials are not proceeding. And not only in this country, I have checked, elsewhere as well. What are we doing to ensure delivery of judgments and rulings which are pending? Again, I have checked with all.
Yeah, sorry, we can't hear you, Judge. I don't know whether we lost you somewhere.
Oh, excuse me, Judge, we can't hear you. Anyone who can reach out to Justice Ochieng and inform him that we can't hear you, Judge. We have lost you. Wow. President Mwamu.
Let me call the guy.
Perform the miracle once again.
Victor?
Judge, unfortunately, we can't hear you. So anyone with a question, you could kindly post while we wait for the judge to get back online. Wow.
I think, Jackie, we can, as we wait for the good judge to reconnect, there's something about his mic that keeps dropping.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a technical hitch on his end. So as we as we try, we're trying to give him a call. I hope we can reconnect. But anybody who has a question, you can raise your hand and we can allow you to speak. Is that okay, Jackie?
Yes.
As we wait for the judge. Anybody, if you have a question, I think we have 5 hands up. We could speak to Richard Onsongo, Council. You can go ahead to ask your question or comment.
Bush, kindly proceed. Or Richard Onsongo is also known as Bush.
Okay. Could you unmute Richard?
Yeah, he's unmuted.
Okay. Richard, just unmute yourself on your end. Yeah, go ahead and speak, Richard.
Am I there? Am I there?
Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Richard.
I hope this is not the court proceedings or virtual hearing. Now, on the basis of the advisory from the WHO and based on previous pandemics, it is clear that the COVID-19 is not likely to go away very soon, unless either we find a vaccine or unless we develop herd immunity. I mean, as all of us get infected, those ones who will die will die. I mean, why are we then behaving as if COVID-19 is a cloud which is likely to move away and forever?
Can you repeat your last part, Bush? I didn't get you. Why are we behaving like I didn't get you?
I'm saying then we are behaving as if COVID-19 is a cloud which is so temporary and it's going to go away so fast that in the next, say, a couple of days, it will no longer be there. And yet we have been told that it's here with us unless we develop a herd mentality or there is a vaccine against it. Why then don't we work in a way that we have several scenarios? That if it goes away, this is how we are going to do our things. If it doesn't go away, this is how we're going to, the way we are going to do our things. Such that we can proceed as the rest of us die, others can proceed with the journey.
Is the question directed to the judge or to all of us?
All of us, all of us.
Okay, thank you. Justice Ochieng, are you back? Thank you so much, Bush, for your question. We'll find a way. Maybe each speaker will give their thoughts around it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Justice Ochieng, are you able to say something? Okay, we could pick another question, Linda.
Victor, mute me. Okay. Anyone else who wants to ask a question? We had 2 people raise up their hand. So Victor, could you? We had Juliet Jakaila who has a question. Juliet, please go ahead, unmute on your side and then proceed. Juliet Jakaila. Okay. I like the joke that was put on the chat that hearings now are just basically about, my Lord, can you hear me? Can you see me? Council, I can't hear you. I can see you. And so Juliet Jakaila, we can't hear you and we can't see you. But Mamu is very, Senior Mamu is very amused.
Yes, from the speakers on Richard's concern, do we then cope? And we can pick that with the discussion from Lynette, that how do we cope? It seems COVID is here to stay. So how do we then move forward? We could start with Aluso, Dev, Mwamu, and Lynette, in that order.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. From the onset of this whole pandemic COVID thing, I always said and felt that we need to carry on, but keep in mind that there is a real danger with regards to our health and all. So I still talk about embracing technology. Let us embrace technology. Let us carry along with our day-to-day activities, but let's embrace technology in all our operations, not just in the judiciary, but every other sector. That is the only way we can carry on and maintain our safety. And of course, the whole masks and cleaning your hands, observing your hygiene, and then we'll be okay. But Bush, I'm informed you're called Bush. You're not scared of death, clearly. I don't want to die yet. But yes, let's embrace tech and let's go back to work, but only if we have put in place measures that will ensure that we are all safe, we are all healthy, and then we can go back to making money fully, because I don't like being broke.
Okay, Dev, any thoughts around that?
I have a thought, and unfortunately, my entire exposition today was based on there being a modicum of normalcy in the shortest time. So the question now trips me a bit because it's looking at a picture where we don't get back to normal and we have to struggle with this. But for me, it's how best to cope with what we have. And one of the things you do is, now it's sort of automatic. You get into a place, you find a bucket outside there, you wash your hands and you sanitize, and then I hate the term social distancing, perhaps personal distancing. Social goes into an area where now we can't even procreate. So you wonder whether personal distancing would be the better thing to say. But my entire exposition today was about there being a modicum of normalcy. So I'm actually quite optimistic that it will come, and I will be shaking hands with Mr. Onsongo very soon.
Okay, I have noticed that the good judge is back. Maybe you could continue and then we can pick up the discussions later. Thanks, Deb, for that. Justice Cheng, kindly proceed.
No.
We lost you after you'd mentioned that I can't remember. Criminal trials are not proceeding, save for cases where murder trials where they are at the defense stage and only the accused person is testifying. If my memory serves me right, yeah. So I think that was where we lost you from. So you could kindly proceed from there.
We can't hear him.
Wow. Mm-hmm. How about using your mobile device, Judge? Just clicking on the link and then you proceed.
Okay.
So we could hear from President Mwamu about going back to normalcy. Kama ni mbaya, ni mbaya. President, kindly unmute your mic.
So
yes, yeah. I partly agree with Richard Onsongo that this thing is likely to take a bit long. If you look at the experts from either Britain or Spain or Italy, they are talking about a vaccine maybe coming, a vaccine being manufactured in around 36 to 24 months. Now, I keep on asking myself, how many advocates will stay at home for 36 months, just staying in the house and without going to work? I think that at some point, we will have to find a way how to upscale. Because if people are not dying and we are taking care, we are taking into account all the we are following all the guidelines that have been laid by the medical profession. I think at some point we may just have to open up, maybe slowly, but I think we'll have to open up. That idea of keeping away from court, keeping away from practice. The technology is good, but you have just noticed how we have been struggling to just get the judge, to address us for about 30 minutes. These things are prone to, one, there could be loss of power, and now we have been having long rains that sometimes interfere with the power connectivity. And sometimes Kenya Power, there are some places where Kenya Power may not even repair power lines for about 2 days. What happens? So these are the challenges that we have. Technology is good, and it allows us to connect with people far and wide in the US and the other places. But it is not 100%, even in the places which are very developed. Having said that, there is something that Mr. Siganga has raised about saving. You can only save if you have.
Hello?
Say, for example, now, if you want to save, where do you save from? Where is the money that you're going to save from going to come? So we are now dealing not just with a situation where, like Aluso says, you need to cut your overheads. We are dealing with a situation where there is no even any money to apply to those overheads. So that we may need to find, there's a gentleman, this gentleman called Ochibaba, who has gone now into selling fish, in Homa Bay. Lawyers may need to branch out and find out if there are any other things that they can do. If you look at this country, for example, the people who have made money during this COVID period are supermarkets, the retailers, and I'm wondering where are the advocates? I don't think that there is anything in our code that stops an advocate from owning a supermarket, for example.
Oh.
I think if yes.
Allow me to cut you short. I see as though Justice Ochieng is back, so you could allow him to proceed. Linda, I don't know whether you'll add that time. We have 8 minutes to 2.
Yeah. I think we are okay. I was concerned for the justice, but he's joined. I hope that this works. There's something called the gods of the internet and presentation. You can prepare so much, and then on the day, it doesn't work. So we can proceed with the justice.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Thank you, Linda.
Have the gods spoken?
Yeah. Have. Yeah.
Oh dear. The system was working very well this morning. I delivered judgments and I did applications. But it doesn't like you guys. I don't know why. Now, let me move on to the judgments. As I was saying, we have basically delivered all judgments except where persons are out on bond or bail. If there's any judgments or rulings pending, please draw them to my attention or the attention of either the Chief Magistrate or the Deputy Registrars. We would be happy to respond to them quickly. Talking about High Court number 1, as a matter of fact, I am bored. I have told the lawyers, including James Agre Mwamu and Richard Onsongo and Joanne Neto, that I'm waiting for lawyers to identify the cases in which they have written submissions so that I can begin writing and I can deliver them from as early as next week. I have nothing to write. And if they haven't written, we are encouraging them to write so that we deliver judgments and rulings as quickly as possible. We have the time and capacity. So please take on the challenge. As regards execution, there is a committee set up in Kisumu, bringing together LSK, the judiciary, the health people, prisons, police, everybody, county government. And we report, like this morning, we had a meeting. But last week on Wednesday, I reported that there is no blanket stay of execution in place at all. That if anybody would like to have a stay of execution, they have to make a formal application as is normal. So there is no blanket stay at all. If you've got your judgment, proceed with execution. So if somebody has been holding a judgment thinking they stay, it ceased from the 22nd of April 2020. It is not there. We even explored the possibility of, within this region of Kisumu, possibly having a blanket 2 weeks or 30 days stay after a judgment has been delivered, but it was finally agreed that that kind of general stay ought not to be in place. So there is none in place. Those of you who are hungry, this is your chance. Move in and execute. As regards mediation, regrettably, we have not embraced it.
The judge is gone off again.
Yeah.
Your audio judge is off again.
Judge, we can't hear you. Oh. So funny. We could, Mr. President, we could maybe reach out to him and ask him to use his mobile device so that he just answers those questions. It seems the computer might be having a problem. I've seen that Munithia has joined us.
We can't hear him.
And he needed to share with us about the LSK Sacco. So while President Mwambu is reaching out to the good judge, we could hear something from Senior Munithia. Senior Munithia, are you there?
Can you? Sorry.
Okay.
And then there was a question, Betty, as soon as you wanted to raise a question, you could either type it or raise your hand, not physically, but there's an icon there.
Yeah. Okay, Betty, you can go ahead. Yes, we can hear you, Betty. She's mute again.
Kindly try and see whether we can hear you.
Betty has to unmute herself. Joseph Musomba as well wanted to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Betty, please proceed.
Allow me to say this. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I wanted to say, as a member of the rapid response team, and having listened to Lynette, I think one of the things that lawyers need to do is to put aside our ego. Put aside our ego. And when we have issues, just come out and say, I have a problem. We are now in this team. We would like to reach out to those who may have problems and are not coming out. If you cannot come out openly, at least identify someone that you can talk to, someone you can reach. And perhaps I would ask our president, chairman, to let the members of the team to see who they can at least talk to, so that the issues can be brought on board with the view to seeing any way that someone in distress can be assisted, either materially or in any other way. That really is now my concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betty. Judge, are you back? Oh. The internet gods have indeed conspired.
Joseph? Joseph would like to speak.
Kindly ask your, or is that Musomba Joseph or another Joseph? I assume that's Musomba.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think the judge may not be back. I think what they're having there is quite insurmountable. But if it can be put to his attention that it is not that advocates are unable to file submissions or that matters cannot move. The problem is that these files are stuck in the High Court registry and in the lower court registry. If these people can give dates, mention dates, so that on those dates we can then take dates for submissions. Then at least they can move. The situation right now is that if you go to the High Court, you are being told to go back to your office. The system works automatically. Once a date is fixed, they shall inform you. Unfortunately, then you see the problems lies with the problem still remains with the judge. So if that can be brought to the attention of the judge, because I do not think that time will allow us to wait for the judge. It would be prudent to take some of these suggestions and put it to him even when you meant these goals of the internet. That's
Okay. And I think we have a final one from Bruce Odeng. Bruce, if you could speak.
And John as well.
Bruce, unmute on your end because we have already unmuted you. If you could go ahead to speak. Okay. Joan Neto.
Hello.
Yes, Bruce, yes.
Great. Good afternoon to all.
Afternoon.
For this discussion, I only have 3 questions. One for Dr. Lynette, one for myself, Dave Siganga, and one for the good justice. Lynette, we normally have very difficult clients who keep calling you over and over and over to a point sometimes you snap. How can we avoid such? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Proceed.
Lynette, Dr. Lynette, can you hear me? Did you get my question?
Had the question, even if she doesn't, she's not had it, we'll be able to ask her. We have all, majority of us have muted our mic, so you may not hear everyone say we are hearing you. But
right, thank you, Chair. To Dave Siganga, I heard you talk about the innovations that could drive business amongst our colleagues. And you made a mention about advertisements. I just want to know whether, in your opinion, you support the issues of lawyers advertising their practice. Will it not water down our profession? And my last question is to Justice Frederick Ochieng. Thank you very much for taking part in these discussions. I have a bit of concern. My clients keep asking me when are courts resuming. I keep telling them, oh, wait for a press statement from NCAJ or the CJ. The last time I heard of NCAJ was on 15th of March when they went live. Ever since, they went mute. The CJ has also not been updating us as to the position of courts in light of COVID-19. So I'm at a loss. I don't know what to tell my clients. When are courts resuming normally? Those are my questions.
Okay, Justice Ochieng, are you back? Kindly try. Thank you so much, Bruce, for the 3 questions. I want to see whether Justice Ochieng is back. Kindly unmute your mic.
Good afternoon.
Good. So, Judge.
Yes.
2 questions that have been asked. I would request that you respond to them while you speak. Number 1 is on the issue of submissions, where you've said that lawyers are not filing submissions. So the concern is that the files are stuck in the registries. So unless the registry staff pull out the file and inform lawyers that they need to file submissions, then it may not be possible. So they are, lawyers are asking that you reach out to your registry staff to inform lawyers of matters that are due for submissions. And then Richard Onsongo's comment on we need to go back to normal. COVID-19 is not going away soon. We need to, as much as possible, go back to normal. Kindly proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. On submissions, I believe it is not for the courts to tell the parties and the lawyers when to file submissions. And if anybody is experiencing any difficulty when they come to file submissions, please draw it to the attention of the Deputy Registrar and to me, because we are inviting you to file submissions in applications and in matters which have been fully heard. You do not need to wait for the file to be found, the physical file. Please proceed to file the submissions. On the issue as to what Bruce has asked, when are the courts resuming normalcy? I do not know the answer, as everybody here has said. As Mr. Onsongo says, possibly this might be the new norm. So I cannot speak for the Chief Justice, nor for NCAJ. I simply do not know. We have got to learn to live with that which we have, that which we are in. That is our reality today. And this is why we are trying to make the best of the situation. So back to normal, perhaps this might be the new normal. Let's learn to live with it. I was talking about mediation earlier, and I said we have not embraced it yet, only because it is very difficult to achieve it with the parties who have cases before us, because most of them to go forward with mediation have to feel that sense of presence of the mediator, that trust and all that kind of thing. And we don't know how many of them will have this kind of gadgets, which in any event sometimes fail and so on. So that is a real challenge. We would like to do it, but practically we are having a real serious problem with it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Judge. Your parting shot, what I've gained from your statement is that, from your conversation, is that the judiciary is ready. You have time, especially for you, you have time to write judgments. Submissions are not coming from lawyers. So lawyers, we need to up our games and do what is required from our end. On criminal trials, it's not just unique in Kisumu, it's happening all over the country, and you cited other jurisdictions outside the country. So we need to find ways of just coping with the situation. I think the best, again, the very good message for lawyers here is on the issue of the blanket stay of execution. The clarification is very welcome. And I'm sure majority of us, especially those who are going to enjoy the fruits of justice, are very happy with that pronouncement from your end. So any question, I would invite Byron to take over the session, my co-moderator, to take over the session, but I would really wish to pass. Very good message for lawyers here. Thank you. Byron?
I don't know whether you have a room for a few questions, Jackie, as we wait for Byron.
Byron questions can lead this session on question and answer session. So we can still take, yes.
Okay. We're unable to find Byron. Just you'll give us maybe a few minutes, but I had a question for the judge.
Yes.
I had a question for the judge on just a policy issue. What do you think could be done better to ensure that we have, smooth virtual hearings or remote hearings? Because a lot of the issues that we have had, we are going through now, did not begin, from your point of view, could be changed in a particular way. What do we do better as, government, but then also as advocates? What advice would you, give the practitioners?
I proceed to answer that?
Yes, yes. Apologies. Just to add to that question, there was a question that I had raised, whether all the stations under your jurisdiction are ICT savvy, whether they are able to proceed virtually, all the stations within your jurisdiction.
Thank you. I will start with the second question first. The answer is yes. In fact, our limiting factor is this, that if it comes to criminal cases, the persons who are in prison have very limited computers. In Kibos, they have 2. In Kodiaga, they now have 3. That means at the very most, we can only deal with 5 cases at any one time if it involves the courts, I mean the prisons. Our system in Kisumu can deal with all, with 6 courts at any one time. The DPP has the capacity also of 6 courts at any one time. The lawyers, of course, are unlimited. We can link up with them as and when the respective cases come up, and they are handling them from their own chambers. The Attorney General was slightly late in coming on board, but he's now fully on board as well. But they can only do a maximum of 3 state councils at any one time. So those are the numbers that we have, but all the court stations, in fact, more so the magistracy with the very computer literate and savvy magistrates, they are all set to go. From Maseno to Tamo courts, they are doing virtual courts very well. What can we do better? This is still trial and error. The judiciary has been introduced to Google Teams. That is what we now are using officially. Yet we, as I confirmed this morning, are ready to continue with Skype and with Zoom. I have no idea what has happened with this particular webinar, but this morning before I got on, I was online with Kodiaga and Kibos and with various lawyers, and we did not experience any problem at all. So maybe, as you say, the gods have conspired for a little while, but I'm grateful to them that they have now finally become kind to me and to us. So it's too early for me to say which is best, which is smoothest. We will try and we'll keep on adjusting as may be necessary. And we are open to suggestions. Some can be localized. We have that authority from the Honorable the Chief Justice. So if you have any suggestions that can work better, we will work with you. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you so much, Judge, for the responses, which I confirm that they were well answered. Dr. Lynette, there was a question that was directed at you on how lawyers can deal with, for lack of a better word, clingy clients who would want to call you every other time. And Dev Siganga, there was a question directed at you on advertisement. If we move out and actively advertise, what does that mean for lawyers? Dr. Lynette, and then we go to Dev.
Okay, I think, yes, there was a question by Bruce on what to do when clients keep on calling you. You know, these clients are also going through anxiety. So the first thing is we have to take note that everybody is having a problem. So they're going through anxiety, which is good. We take note of that. But what you can do is just to be assertive and to tell them that, look here, we can only talk from this time to this time. And in being assertive, you can draw boundaries, you know, and tell your clients that, look here, we are going to talk at maybe at 11, or we can talk from 11 to 12. So that the clients already know that between this time and this time, we can be able to talk with our lawyer. That in itself will remove anxiety from the client, and they would stop being clinging, because they'll always be waiting for that time. And when that time reaches that you had agreed that you're going to talk to them, make sure you are available. That is a way of training someone to communicate with you at a certain time. And then, of course, also just assuring them and giving them the kind of answers they need. I think that would also help. So I hope that for Bruce, that is answered.
Thank you very much. Dev Siganga.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, you had another issue, sorry?
Yes, Betty Asuna had raised an issue on some people who could be having ego issues and they're not able to talk. Yes, this can happen because people are still confused and they don't know which way to go or other way to go. But if anybody is not able to talk to their in your forums that they can, you can always reach out. I go to AAR. I'm a consultant at AAR Clinic. You can always come and see me there, and then we can give you professional help, because some of these things, especially when it's gotten to depression or anxiety disorder, might need clinical help, because first and foremost, we might give you medication and then also give you psychotherapy. So that is also another way to look at it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Dev Siganga, kindly proceed to respond to Bruce Odenyi's question on advertisement.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. The whole context of the advertising that I brought up was what the judge has just said right now, which I may borrow. What we have now and what we are in is an era where the uptake of IT will sort of mold our profession. So I was talking about it in the light of IT. And I don't know if anybody noticed that when Bruce Odenyi's profile came on, he had advertised his farm. It had the times when he opens and when he closes. And it was a really nice commission for oaths, notary, and mediators. I took that away from that particular engagement. And there are rules. There still are rules within the Act for advertising online. We probably have not embraced them that much. It is the small things. It is, if you can just embrace the small things that Aluso had talked about earlier in the morning, then those are the ones that I say can sell you. And then the bigger one, of course, is websites, blogs that you're writing your research papers on as a form of marketing your farm or your craft. That's the context, not the holistic figure of advertising, but only narrowed down to the uptake of IT.
Okay, any other question before I hand over the mic to speaker? Thanks for the response. And just building up on what Kiasuna said, the Rapid Response Committee has established modalities for supporting lawyers. One of it is supporting lawyers by giving them vouchers on a need-arise basis. And we've also we are working with the West Kenya Law Society offices to offer ICT support to lawyers who are not able to have the necessary ICT equipment to support virtual hearings and filings. And we've also reached out to lawyers and asked them to be mindful of the others just being our brothers keepers. So if there is no question, yes.
Jackie, yes, there was a question there was some comment made by Dave Siganga about Sacco. We have the chairman of Sacco, Mr. Justus Bunyidya, online. Perhaps he could be given maybe 1 or 2 minutes to say something about the LSK Sacco.
Yes, and there's someone who refers to him or herself as Oppo 3. There's a question you have raised. I'm trying to, please go back. There's some concerns I've raised. Kindly respond to my side chat. Oppo 3, thanks. Senior Munyithia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jackie and the rest of team in Kisumu. I want first to thank you and congratulate the judge for just what you have shared with us. This is real justice happening. Speaking from side for the Sacco, I know that you may have received our notice that we are paying our dividends and interest, and you have up to 22nd to elect whether you like those dividends to come to you or we capitalize to your accounts and deposits. We are also offering various products in case you may want to make your law firm better at this time. For those of us who have sufficient deposits, we allow you to borrow from the deposits. That notwithstanding, I wanted to just say, Mwamu and you, we are following this from Mombasa to see whether we can again come together and boost the welfare of the lawyers from the Sacco's perspective. We have our representative right in Kisumu, the Vice Caleb, who can be able to get in touch with you, assist members on the best product that they want to access. Finally, for those of you who have just acquired your plots in Kibos, we are trying our best to ensure that you get your title deeds. Thank you very much. God bless.
Wow, thank you very much. Senior Munyipia for the comments. Someone has sent me questions. Gabriel Okeo, your question to the judge is whether the increased use of technology is watering down the strides made in regards to access to justice. So is remote hearing, remote service, remote hearing and stuff, does it undermine the credibility of access to justice as a country? So what are your thoughts around that? And then there was a question on before the court engages the CUC, is it possible for it to directly engage lawyers to identify modalities on moving forward and then bring the issues discussed between the bar bench to the broader CUC members? Justice Ochieng, kindly respond to the two questions.
Can I just add a few questions from YouTube that the justice can add on to this?
Yes.
We have Paulina on YouTube who's asking, are there any measures put in place to ensure that tribunals and boards resume or at least upscale operations like the courts? Also, Bruce, Justice, what's the position of NTAJ on COVID-19? I think you also asked this before. We have no answers to our clients. And thank you, William and Teresa. They say that congratulations, Kisumu chapter. This is the way to go. So thanks everyone who's joined us on YouTube. We see your comments and we're grateful for that. Justice.
Thank you. Remote trials do not in any way, in my view, undermine justice. Because as we sit here, for instance, we are talking and engaging. As I say, we are not taking witnesses from the moment because of health reasons. When we begin hearing witnesses again, obviously, whether we hear them in the courthouse or remotely, we will have to put in place mechanisms to ensure that, for instance, a witness is not being coached, a witness is being sworn, and all those things. They have happened before. You know, you can take evidence by commission and so on. So there are structures which can enable us proceed when we resume either the old normal or the new normal, in other words, hearing witnesses, but albeit maybe in another room or something like that. It is all possible and we can work together on it. On the question of before engaging CUC, should not judiciary engage the lawyers? Yes and no. There are instances where issues come from CUC about lawyers. So before we engage the lawyers, we may not know the issues. But we have the forums between the lawyers and judiciary, which is basically the bar bench. And in Kisumu, we even have a second one, which is the business CUC, which brings together not individual companies, but the bodies such as Kenya Bankers Association and Kenya Association of Manufacturers. And we then discuss in the presence of a representative of LSK matters touching on the delivery of expeditious justice. So we have different forums for different purposes. If there are issues which lawyers would like us to engage only with them or engage with them first before we take to the open CUC, we are happy to listen and my door is always open. The lawyers know what the simple rules are. Don't come and see me as an individual. Even if it is the chair, you come in with one other member and my door is always open. As regards tribunals, as far as I know, they are operating as the rest of the courts are. They only have limitations in the same way as we do. They have been slightly slower in the uptake, but they are now on board. Again, if there is any particular issue touching on things as they happen within Kisumu region, I'd be happy to take them up for you, even with the such tribunals and so on. So again, my door is open. And finally, I thank you all for putting this together I hope we will have another session fairly soon on specific things or generalized things, and I will always be available. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Judge, and all the speakers for the day. I would invite our chair for the branch, sorry, I'm calling her Justice, Joan Neto.
Oh, that is good prayers.
Yes, amen to that. Chair Joan Neto, kindly give us your closing remarks, and thank you so much, participants, for being with us. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for elevating me to that position. This has been a very fruitful discussion, and really a lot has come up. I'm sure lawyers have gained a lot. Thank you, Dr. Lilnet, for very insightful advice that you have given unto us. So we are able right now to know when we are getting into stress or, symptoms of stress, we know. From what I've gathered is that our legal practice is perpetually on the road to the future. That is all I think from these discussions. And there's a lot of restructuring, there's a lot of changes that are going on. And COVID-19 has caused disruption to our traditional way of doing things. And as they say, is that the only constant thing is change. And from what we have heard from all the speakers is like, as lawyers now we have got to change and we have got used to embrace technology. There is no way to no other way out. I know change comes with a lot of discomfort, endless strings on the, breaks and so much like our senior Dave Siganga has said, we have had to send our employees back home. Some are on, unpaid leave, some are on, half pay. And, any other person who was earning from lawyers, your mechanics, everyone else is stressed now. But I believe that from the discussions that we have had, we are able to find a way of navigating around all these things. So I really want to appreciate all the panelists. You have done well. Thank you very much, Linda, for hosting us. We are very grateful. This has been a very smooth kind of discussion. And of course, technology has its own faults, but I'm glad that we have been able to pull through. I want to thank the members of the Kisumu Welfare Committee, that is the rapid response team. You have done well. You have not disappointed. Thank you so much. I know you have worked tirelessly to come up with this and to organize this. I also want to appreciate you, Justice Ochieng. Thank you very much for coming on board. And we also want to appreciate you from Kisumu because we know you're doing your best. And so far, you have really done well together with your team. We are very grateful from Kisumu. Thank you to all the members of the legal LSK. I know probably there are some members from the judiciary who have also joined in. We are grateful. We are in this boat together and I know that we will sail through. At the end of the day, the most important thing is to ensure that we are sane in the midst of all these things because we have tomorrow that to take care of, and we can only get there when we are in one piece. So I would urge all of us to reach out to everyone else. Let us talk, let us speak, don't keep to yourself. Because at the end of the day, no man is an island. You have got to speak. And someone said that, you only get what you have courage to ask for. Madam Asuna spoke about people who are shy from talking about what they are going through. I would urge all of us, let us not be shy because there's help outside there. Everyone else is willing to help. You may not be given so much. You may not receive everything else, but everyone else is willing to help outside there. So I don't want to water down what has been said already. Mine is just to appreciate all of us. Thank you so much. I hope we can do this again because it is very therapeutic when we speak, when we talk, when we hear people have such kind of discussions. then we get to realize as lawyers that you're not alone, because all of us are in this. So thank you so much. God bless you. I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Linda, kindly allow me to read out this to the good judge. There's Okoyo Gabriel, who has congratulated Justice has made reference to a decision, Maina Ngare versus the Republic in 2011, where the good judge was able to use technology. So Justice Ochieng, it's not today where we've taken note that you have embraced technology. As late as early as 2010, 2011, you are able to do that. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks everyone on this call. I think this was really good, and we hope as a Lawyers Hub that we get to host you again. We're looking forward to do trainings on technology so that we can get into, emerging technologies and how that affects justice. We hope that in the next, your next engagement that you will consider us. We intend to run a few trainings together with the Commonwealth Lawyers Association and together also with the East Africa Law Society. So we hope that we could engage with the Kisumu chapter of the Law Society. And somebody asked about CPD points. We hope that we'll be able to give that as well for our next training. So we hope that in the end that we'll work together. I want maybe Aluso to say a remark. I think from the Law Society end with the CPD committee, sorry, not the CPD committee, but the IT committee, she convinced the committee now, she co-convinced the committee, and it will be interesting to hear what, what plans the committee has to ensure that members get to be tech savvy so that we collaborate well with the judiciary.
All right, thank you, Linda. To the Kisumu chapter, thank you so much for having me on board once again. So as Linda has stated, I convened the ICT IP Committee of the Law Society of Kenya, and that is how I found myself on this platform. We have great plans for the committee, but largely at the moment, what we are largely focusing on is the Intellectual Property Bill of 2020, which is currently being discussed in various circles. It would be very important if we put in our minds and heads onto that document so that we can put in comments to improve it for the betterment of the practice in the IP and tech space of practice of law. We also are looking forward to partnerships and engagements with various bodies, like for example, the LSK Sacco, see if they can support our members in upscaling and in the technology support bit so that they can be able to digitize their firms and be more virtually enabled in terms of practice. At this point, I'm actually just thinking if there's a way we can also work with the branches. I am a member of the Nairobi branch of the LSK, as much as I represent you on the national front. And I would think it would be good if all the branches supported their members. I have heard that Kisumu is doing that, and I'm very proud of you for that. The branches should be able to set up within their offices like a hub of sorts where members can come and use the facilities at a minimal fee, even as they try and set up their own structures within their individual practice and chambers. So briefly, that's it. The ICT IP committee is largely about policy and legislation in the space of intellectual property, where LSK is expected to be active in that space with the parliament and other law-making entities. And also my colleague Esther is really at the forefront in terms of digitizing our continuous professional development programs. And I'm sure some of you have attended those. She is with me in the committee, and I'm very proud of her for what she's doing so far. Thank you guys, and let us work together as a society for the growth of the Law Society of Kenya. Asanteni.
All right, thank you very much. You can continue being on the chat. We will go offline on YouTube shortly, but those who are on Zoom, you can continue to network. If you have any comments as well, you can leave that for us. If you go on YouTube to Lawyers Hub Africa, just subscribe on our channel. Anytime we go live with engaging content, you will get a notification and you'll be able to engage with us on the same. So thank you, Kisumu Ba. Thank you, Jackie. I think we will bring it to a close. And I wish you all a very good afternoon. Are we good to go and say bye? It's so hard to say bye on a Zoom call. There's even a meme for it. Bye, bye, bye.
We all say bye, bye, bye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Now, how do you leave this?